without further ado, I would love to introduce our all-star panel to you. And now we are hoping that Carrie Pitts-Denmore is going to be able to join us. With anything in life, there's always a technical issue, and we just roll with the punches. So if and when Carrie gets to join us, this is who this wonderful woman is. She's got 25 years of communication experience and has built a career at the intersection of storytelling and technology, from her early days as an award-winning television journalist to her time as a media consultant and real estate agent. She's consistently leveraged digital innovation to enhance engagement. Carrie's the VP of Enrollment and Marketing at Johnston Community College, and we're crossing every finger and toe that she is going to join us here within the next few minutes. But the three folks we do have on your screen this afternoon: Luis Caloca. He began his career in student services in 2003 and played a critical role in founding the College of Western Idaho in 2008. Now serving as the Dean of Student Access, Luis leads efforts to enhance enrollment and student support through innovation AI applications. We also have Claire Skelton. Claire is the Assistant Director of Content Marketing at Southeast Missouri State University. Claire specializes in crafting engaging student narratives. She brings a fresh perspective on AI's role in storytelling, using data-driven insights to enhance student engagement and recruitment. Claire's passionate about leveraging AI-powered content strategies to strengthen connections with prospective students and improve digital communications in higher ed. And I know Claire has got some folks cheering her on in the chat room. And the chat room's also letting me know that y'all can't even see my screen. So here we are. Luis, I got to pull up your three fun facts, because this karaoke star in the making is probably my favorite fun fact that's on any of these slides, for the record. So this was Luis. Here we are with Claire. And Claire, congratulations yet again on your recent nuptials. I know you started this year out in a very special way, so congrats. Now, last but not least, we have John Carrere. John is, and I'm getting back to my notes, John has more than 15 years of experience in higher ed. He serves as the Director of Recruitment and First Year Experience and Element 451's administrator at Pitt Community College. He's played a pivotal role in modernizing student recruitment and orientation efforts through AI-driven solutions, and his leadership extends beyond admissions as he serves the Pitt Community College Foundation Board of Directors and co-advises the PCC Student Ambassador Leadership Program. Are we having karaoke, Jeff? I don't know. Are we? The king of karaoke is in the chat room. So I feel like perhaps we may have to pivot quickly. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We're here for a panel on AI, and John is saying this is not one of my fun facts, y'all. So all right, I'm going to pull that screen share down because we're just here to have a conversation. We don't need to look at any fancy slides. And in fact, I am going to kick this conversation off, Claire, with you. So I know, and I mentioned this at the end of the keynote, all three of you are using AI every day. You're using it in your personal lives and your professional lives. So while this virtual room is full of early adopters, I know we have some folks in the chat room and watching right now who are probably still in that, like, should we or shouldn't we phase when it comes to AI adoption. And furthermore, each of you represents an institution that's not just like dipping its toe into AI, but you're making a conscious decision to embrace it in a really meaningful way. And I'm curious to know, like, was there a moment or a factor that pushed your institution from curiosity into action? And what were those first steps that you took? And so, Claire, I want to start with you because we actually got to meet for the first time last summer at the 2023 Engage Summit in Raleigh. And I just have a suspicion that that was a game changer for y'all. Will you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, Mallory, it was perfect to be at the Engage Summit. We had a lot of decision makers that attended, and they were able to work together as a team with the Element team to put our bot together. It's Sadie, and she's featured on a lot of our admissions pages. So far since summer 2023, she's already saved our admissions team over 566,000 hours. So Sadie's working very hard at SEMO.
Wow. That is a lot of human hours, and I think gets directly to some of those benefits that Artis and JC were speaking to in their keynote. John, what about you?
So our Element 451 journey started with just the simple need for a CRM. When we began the research, and there's tons of them out there, don't get me wrong, plenty in the business and educational world, but the words AI powered from Element 451 was what I think kind of set the hook for us and made it a little bit more forward thinking in the sense that we need to make sure that whatever tools that we're utilizing can continue to be utilized further on down the road and continue to evolve. I mean, just hearing the keynote a little while ago was just kind of jaw dropping to hear how agentic AI can start changing the business world. And I was already starting to formulate how can that change the higher education world? How does that affect our day-to-day processes here at Pitt Community College? So finding Element 451 was more of a toy purchased and given to us and said, here, this is yours, do with it what you will. And that's kind of where we started off from, is that we didn't really have so much research to conduct as it was already ready to go, and has just really been phenomenal for our outreach and recruitment.
All right. Yeah, and I think that our journey was a little different in that we had a chatbot at one time, and I think that term has been used, and there are certain folks out there that term resonates and it means something. I still recall how I would sit down with sheets of paper and try to think of how many ways someone could spell the word admissions, because this particular chatbot, you had to ask the question exactly as we had it written. And how would they spell transcripts, right? And we spent so many hours trying to figure all those things out, developed hundreds of questions. And at the end of the day, the tool, I think, maybe answered 5% of student questions. And you could see as you looked at those transcripts that folks would just get frustrated. And at the end of the day, it really was more of a hindrance than it was an advantage. So we had to shut it down, right? And yeah, Bolt AI is much different. It's nothing like that. So.
Got it. Well, that's good to hear. And as you were speaking, I had to chuckle because Claire literally like put her hand in her face when she heard you describe the early days. All right. So you've each implemented AI in different ways. Which AI initiatives have made the biggest difference, though, both for your students and for your staff? Because there's different value props for each, right? And they're both equally important. So, so first, what AI initiatives have made the biggest difference? And then how do you know that they're working, right? Like Claire mentioned, they've saved time. Well, how do you know that? How have you measured that, right? And what is it that you're measuring? Are you trying to improve engagement or change some outcomes or save time for your team, right? So there was about 10 questions in there, but Luis, you're a pro. I know you're going to be able to answer all of them.
Oh, yeah. No, I could go in many directions with that. Yeah, probably 10 different directions, as you stated. But for this particular question, I really wanted to address things like events, right? So if you were to look at my LinkedIn profile, one of the things that I was most excited about as we first started to deploy events was that our Admissions Express event, that we had maybe the first time that we had put that on 40 to 50 students, right? We're like, yeah, at least we're helping some students, and we didn't think it was a waste of our time or anything. But the next time around that we hosted that event and had plugged everything into the CRM, right, where you basically have everything integrated, right? Everything talks to each other. You can easily deploy communication to advertise, have all sorts of triggers. We had 250 students show. I mean, it just, the lobby was jam-packed. We had to funnel
Wow.
people through back hallways so that they weren't stepping on each other's toes. I mean, it was out of this world. And since then, we've actually started to deploy other events within the tool. And again, just that easy ability to be able to communicate, get folks to RSVP, the aftermath, right? What sort of follow-up can you produce to make sure that student stays on track? It's just been unbelievable. And I think similarly, too, is just the triggers that we've been able to just kick off with engagement, right? As students start to fall through the cracks, the system recognizes that and we're able to do something about it, right? So when I had looked at our spring class, it technically it's the small class, right? You don't expect as many students in the spring. We had been up in our new student count 24%. That figure in
Whoa.
itself, just like, are we on track? Yes. Yes, we are. That's when I knew.
That's incredible.
So
Hey, John.
I'll kind of speak to that a little bit. Yeah. And I kind of want to go off of what Luis was sharing in that our event management processes allows us to have confirmations and reminders go out to students because sometimes months, weeks and months in advance, students will register for an event and not everybody puts it on a calendar. Sometimes they forget, which is totally understandable. So the reminders going out to students and letting them know that they've registered for something and trying to make sure that they are steered in the right direction is what orientation is all about. In addition to that, utilizing the automated workflows and allowing Copilot to help build those automated sequences out. I know that I've got some of my PCC marketing people in the chat right now, and I hate to let the cat out of the bag, but I don't create all those wonderful campaigns. I put those prompts into a workflow. I let them know how often it needs to go out and what the messages need to say, and I kind of curate as I go along. And that's really helped us to establish some early communication with our prospective and admitted students to help guide them through the admissions process, in addition to allowing us to start those conversations with our VoltBot, which we call BruiserBot at Pitt Community College. He is all knowing, all powerful, knows everything about Pitt Community College, and anybody that's looking for a class can go in, research, find out information about financial aid, and all that kind of good stuff. So getting kind of the wheels turning was probably the hardest part, simply because we needed to make sure that all of our messaging sounded like us, all the branding looked like us. And I wouldn't say it's kind of taken the place of what my job kind of entails, which is helping to create that content. It's helped to enhance and encourage it and gives me a starting place. Even in marketing events and trying to come up with what a flyer would look like, sometimes I just need to spit it out on a piece of paper and put it in, the AI and see what comes back. And sometimes it will, give me exactly what it is I'm looking for, which is pretty phenomenal.
I love that. I think the biggest thing for me in my work life that AI has fixed is the like blank page syndrome. And I feel that every single day. Like I will turn to AI for sometimes what is seemingly the simplest things, but it just kind of gets me over that hump. And then the creativity starts flowing and all the great content starts coming out too. So
I,
great. Those are great examples. Claire, you want to jump in?
I totally agree with that, Mallory. Like, I feel like the biggest thing with a lot of this is you have to realize that you're going to want to edit in a different way to make
Mm,
sure that that engagement's great. But I am the same where I cannot start with a blank document. I love to edit, and that's where a lot of my creativity comes from. So AI just is able to push us a little bit forward.
and what just a simple example too. Like sometimes I think half of it is demystifying AI, especially if folks are feeling a little skeptical about it. Sometimes it's just a matter of hearing about one single use case because that can help you ideate on 20 different ones. So actually, since I brought up the skeptics, let's stay on that for a second. And I think we're so all, and especially folks who are listening right now, like we're entrenched in this, right? We're the very small percentage of people who are really paying attention to this right now and are early adopters and are using it. And when I go out and I chat with just friends or family or even folks in the industry at other organizations, I'm still hearing, still on February 25th, 2025, that AI can feel like hype. hype and that not everybody's jumping on board right away. And I think I'm so deep into it that I'm like, how is that even possible? But it's real, right? I'm sure we all know people in our lives who we work with or interact with who are still in that mindset. But panel, like we know that AI adoption isn't just about technology, it is about the people. And I'm curious, I'm sure you've all experienced some pushback at some point as you started integrating AI into your day to day and rolling it out really mindfully on your campus. So let's learn from you, right? So others can kind of speed past that. What strategies have worked best, particularly when you're trying to bring those skeptic faculty or staff along? Luis, you want to kick us off on this one too?
Yeah, I gotcha. So, for us, I think it was, I think we're kind of maybe unique in the sense that me and Ted Daniels, who's also in on this, our CRM analyst, we're both very tech savvy. We get excited about technology. You could say we are technology cheerleaders. The only thing that we don't have in the office are pom-poms, but we are just all
We'll send
about.
you some.
I would use them. I'll tell you that. We'll probably do a LinkedIn video about it. But it's just a matter, I think, of number one, right? We have that enthusiasm and that love for getting to know the capabilities of technology and then how could we apply those in the workplace. So I think for us, that was step one, right? And then after that, it's like, how do we generate some of that same enthusiasm among the team? Because we have a lot of team members that are just super intimidated by anything to do with AI. They hadn't really touched it. They hadn't played with it. Those are things that I think Ted and I do all day, every day, personally and professionally. So we started with some trainings and doing just some live sessions. Let's look at the tool. Let's ask it some questions, right? Let's draft some messaging and see how it reacts. And then after they saw how it reacted, we would give it additional prompts, right? So they could see, in a sense, how does that prompt engineering work in order to customize, to tailor. And slowly but surely, right, folks, I think start to seeing it live and the wheels, you could see those wheels start to spin. Oh gosh, like this is going to help me. This is going to save me time. And that's, I think slowly just through example, how you start to get to them and just take that small step, dab your toe, right? Drop your toe in that cold pool. And then afterwards, Ted is actually located in our main one stop. So we'll come down and we'll strategize periodically. So folks are always, they hear us talking about the tool and how we use it and how we can better utilize it. And we'll go out into a QB and ask folks, hey, how's it going with the tool? And how have you used the Copilot today? And oh, have you asked it these types of questions? And the feedback that we get, I think, has also just been invaluable. So any of that hesitancy, we're there and they can address it with us and we can do something about it. And maybe that leads to perhaps something that maybe there is something missing in the tool and we need to add to our knowledge base, whatever that feedback might be. So yeah, presence, training, and constant reinforcement.
Well, Luis, you have a Dan, I have a Cody. I believe that working with a teammate and being able to constantly be talking with these people, like a peer, is going to be really impactful because we are the ones that are having to work with the knowledge base. Cody, she's in the chat, but we're the ones that are going to have to implement and problem solve all these issues. And we do need to realize like this is step one. It's only going to get better from here. But the more that we work with these AI solutions for content creation or automation, it's only going to make us propel so much further.
I would agree with that. I need to find some of those people like that, like it did. That not necessarily that I don't have those people. In fact, we actually built our own, what we're calling our Element 451 optimization team, who meets regularly. We have a standing meeting once a month where we get together and discuss usage within the solution. So it's everything from the knowledge base to our forms, the applications, things of that nature. We kind of collaborate and includes our planning and research office and information technology offices, as well as a couple of our early adopters as well. So My advice, I think, or at least my charge to everyone in the chat and everyone watching would be to, I'm a comic book guy. I love the comic book superhero movies. So I'll say, assemble, get your super friends
Yes.
around the table, whatever it might be. You need to find people that are invested in the same thing you are, which is the growth and utilization of AI on your home campus, and start grassroots. Sometimes it does take it going one by one and showing the capability of what this tool has to offer and the ways that it saved you time, the ways that it has helped you engage with prospective and current learners. But in a larger sense, we are having those discussions across campus, especially on the faculty side of the house, on how AI is being utilized by our students. If there needs to be a policy on how AI is utilized, we're all working within our professional worlds on how to improve AI, but is there an ethical way our students should be able to utilize artificial intelligence and how they deliver their coursework? So we're working on trying to get that kind of roped around and trying to figure out how we can best utilize artificial intelligence inside the classroom as well. I think that the growing presumption is that if the student is going to utilize artificial intelligence, let's teach them while they're here how to utilize it, because the professional working world will expect them to know how to use it when they get there in one capacity or the other. So whether or not they're, even if they're a welder or if they're a future nurse, whatever it might be, there's going to be some aspect of artificial intelligence woven in there somewhere.
John, thank you for saying that, because as somebody who employs young, fresh out of college, like hungry, eager professionals, I expect, and I bet a lot of folks watching now do expect some level of AI awareness, if not literacy. And I think I keep seeing these conversations. Seth and I talk about this on our Higher Ed Pulse podcast sometimes, but we keep seeing these conversations, especially on Reddit, from people who are continuing to heavily discourage students from learning about artificial intelligence while they're in college. And I get so frustrated as their future employer. I get so frustrated by that. But hey, y'all, Carrie Pitts-Denmore has joined the room. Carrie, so excited that you are here with us. And we're talking about how to convince the skeptics, right, to at least start to dip their toe into the AI water. And I know you talk a lot on your campus about buy-in. Give us your advice.
Hi, friends. Sorry for the delay, but here I am. So, yeah, when I think about buy-in, which is a term that is used widely in higher education, I don't think that means go ask every single person if they agree and say yes, and then we decide that we're going to do something, because you could talk about doing it and think about it for years, and we do that sometimes. So for me, it was like, okay, let's start small and we keep building on it. And as we build, we bring in different teams and we train them, and the teams are talking now and are asking us for training because they understand what it can do for them. And I think, like everyone else said, in terms of using AI, we need to be not afraid to experiment with it, because it is here. It's not going anywhere. And our students use it. Our future employees are going to use it. So,
yeah. And we're going to hear from some students tomorrow afternoon at the end of this event. And so a little plug for that closing panel session, because I have some insights as I've been preparing with them for that session. I have some insights into how they're thinking about AI, and they are hungry to learn, and they are interested, and they want to be utilizing it, but in the right ways. So make sure, folks, you come back for that session, which will wrap us up at 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Now, Carrie, I'm actually going to stay on you, going to pick on you a little bit because you just joined the session. So I'm going to toss the next one your way. I want to shift our conversation now towards personalization and continue this thread of talking about students, but less from the lens of what they're learning in the classroom to how folks like all of you and the folks who are listening to this panel right now are utilizing AI to personalize content, right? We know we live in this attention economy now, and you got to go big or you go home. Like I think about that really cool Severance pop-up that they did in Grand Central. Like, don't we all wish we could grab attention like they did, right? So, barring our huge budget for showing up in the New York City train stations, we know one thing we can do is personalize and even go a step further than that to individualization. And for the first time ever, I think that's possible thanks to AI. So that said, AI is only as good as the strategy that's behind it. Carrie, I want to hear how you've used AI to create those better student experiences. And has there been anything unexpected along the way?
Yeah, so this is just a way to use personalization and scale it. And we were not able to do that before. So we have built this system to really take the student from inquiry to graduation. And so when they apply or when they inquire, even, but inquire or apply, we're sending them personalized messages. Then they are assigned an advisor, and their advisor is sending them a personalized message. And now we have a success team for retention who's sending them personalized messages based on their progress. We have also integrated this whole system into our Student Success Center. So we use it as a check-in system. And what that allows us to do is every time someone calls or walks in or whatever, we can record that interaction. We can see how many times they visited. We can see what they're there for, and we can continue to follow up with them. And so we've just never been able to do this at the scale that we have. Are there things along the way? Yes. I mean, data, as with everyone, garbage in, garbage out. I mean, it's never perfect. And so we find that we send a message and it could potentially go to the wrong person and they're confused. We do our best to clear that up, but it's not our fault if the data doesn't match necessarily. So yeah, sure, pitfalls all the time, but I really believe in failing forward and that you cannot figure this out if you don't try it.
Yeah, that's a great, Carrie. I think for us, it's been, I think just the ability that you can trigger so many different things based on so many different inputs. We have a lot of RFI forms that we've created, those requests for information forms, everything goes into the tool. And then from that point, we have a lot of customization built into each of those. But then for me, I saw an opportunity for us to develop out campaigns for more specific audiences when we use things like the import feature. I think one example that we have is we import our Idaho Launch students. So Idaho Launch is a scholarship program given to students that are pursuing a two-year degree at a community college, right? So all of these students, some of them have done the second step, which is the Idaho Launch application, but not all of them have done what we call the Apply Idaho application. It's like the Common App for the state of Idaho, right? So we kind of took advantage of being able to produce a very specific campaign for this group. And that's something that we've actually started to do for every import. Every import now has a customized campaign very specific to that audience. And, artists made reference to this in the keynote that, today now, thanks to the capabilities of these tools, you can create 20 plus, maybe even an infinite number of campaigns instead of 6 because of bandwidth, right? Like campaigns would take days, weeks even. And now really in a matter of hours, you can create full, not just a touch here and there. I'm talking about full campaigns that can span weeks, months. So yeah, definitely a lot of flexibility.
I think leaning onto that, I love making campaigns using like the engagement score with the student type. one of our favorite use cases is we'll send a lurker message, which is the lurker engagement kind of level of this student who has clicked on a couple of our emails, but really hasn't been very actionable. And so we can take that segment of students and send them a personalized message from our admissions counselors. And we've seen like a 30 to 40% open rate with all of those. And I think it's because and we'll put in the subject line, hey, we've seen that you haven't been messaging us back. Is there something we can help you with? And that has always been very fruitful for us.
That's amazing.
If our students only knew how much we know about them when they give us all this data when it comes to when they open their emails or what they provide to us on their applications, they'd probably try to safeguard that information even more closely. But I will say, and just kind of echoing Luis a little bit, I feel like whenever we put these campaigns together, it's marketing, but it's not so much a call to action or transactional. Meaning that we're letting them know that something's coming up, but come if you want to, kind of thing. By the third round, if we've contacted you and you go through the conditions within the workflow and you still haven't acted on what it is that we're attempting to get you to do, I call it dad voice. We'll put their first name in the subject line and it says, Mallory, need your help. And it usually encourages them to go ahead and open their email. Think back to all the emails that you get just for your personal email account from Target or Walmart or Amazon. They're all addressing you by your name in many cases. They see that you've purchased products in the past, and here's something else that you might like. When you're addressing someone personally in those email messages, you're going to it definitely increase that open and engagement rate. And the ability to personalize is one thing, but what Claire was talking about, being able to see when it is that they are typically opening their messages so that you can time yours to go out when they're typically in their inbox, it can make all the difference in the world. So I would really encourage those that are exploring the opportunity to weave AI into your campaign and your communication processes to check out what Element 451 can do for you in that capacity.
So, John, I'm going to hang on you for a second because Claire's already given us this really cool use case. In her last response, she mentioned the lurker message. I'm obsessed with that. And a 40% open rate is nothing to sneeze at. Congratulations. Awesome. I know. So I want to hear about some more use cases because we said, maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, sometimes the biggest barrier to adopting AI is coming up with the right use cases. So, but I don't just want a laundry list of use cases here. Let's make it interesting, John. Let's talk about something that maybe surprised you in terms of a use case because it worked better than expected, or maybe it took off in a way you never anticipated.
Yeah. So, the first one that comes to mind is, of course, going back to our BoltBot experience. We are an office of two when it comes to the general office of recruitment. When it comes to campus tours and things of that nature, it's really challenging to sometimes try to meet students where they are, whatever time it is they come to campus. And we have a regularly scheduled tour, but we're not always on the campus when prospective students arrive. So what I did was our marketing team, and shout out to Jane Power because hopefully she's still on the webinar right now. She worked with our past president to create a 50th anniversary view book for our institution, which is also fortunately a PDF. I uploaded that PDF into our knowledge base. So now anyone that goes around to our campus can punch in the name of a building and they'll learn exactly who it's named after, why it's named after them, what's offered inside of them. Kind of allows them to kind of guide their own campus tour around our facilities. We're very fortunate at Pitt Community College to have such a beautiful campus. And we can't always be here when students are here. Saturdays are a great day for some reason when everyone just seems to come out and explore our campus whenever we're not around. But we have these self-guided tour maps that people can utilize. And it's been a really unique to see some of the questions and some of the things they ask that virtual tour guide as they're going around. I've also been really surprised at the ability to leave our AI agents on when we're not on campus. So those of you that have been inside of this polar vortex for the past couple of months, our campus closed down for about 3 days in January, and we just now got back. Eastern North Carolina is not built for this kind of weather. Just FYI, if you've never visited North Carolina, an inch to an inch and a half of ice is a catastrophe, essentially, snowmageddon. But we basically just stopped all of our processes, and everyone went home to work remotely. Well, a lot of our out of office messages allowed us to put our BoltBot feature on call for anybody that had questions if we weren't able to answer them right away. So our health sciences students, that was right in our admission application window. And if they had a question about their application or what they needed to submit in order to gain admission into the nursing program or sonography or whatever it might be, they were able to get real-time answers from that AI agent and get that application submitted successfully. So those are probably the two biggest wins that I can think of right off the top of my head.
That's awesome. Carrie, do you have an example for us too?
I do. I'm sorry. I can't see the chat very well.
Oh.
We are also testing the AI phone assistant, beta testing it for Element. And so we have encountered a couple of bugs, but we have it connected to our main phone system, and you can ask to be connected with it, but we also prompt you in Spanish that you can start speaking to the AI phone assistant in Spanish. We know that it speaks other languages as well, but I thought, let's start with that, one prompt. And so like John said, we're never closed. We have our AI assistants, we have our Bolt, our chatbot, we have the phone assistant, and we have built several of the AI assistants within the system for CCP, financial aid, admissions, and things like that. So we have specialized attention there as well. So we get questions nonstop, and it's amazing. Wow. And, I think that to kind of go back to another thing that we were talking about with personalization, this is a two-way communication now, not just a one-way. You're not just pushing it out to them. You can answer them too. And so we know our students much better, I think, than we did previously. And this is because of AI. And so there's that human element all the way through.
Absolutely. And that's so important. You need to have that human element all the way through. And sometimes I think that's where, when we're addressing the skeptics, right? Like that can become an important talking point. So in our journey here as a panel, we've talked about the skeptics, we've talked about the students, we've talked about personalization. Let's put our mindset into those of the folks who are listening right now, the people who aren't as robustly using AI as the four of you. And I think luckily a lot of institutions are in a place where they are testing AI in small ways, but it's the process of scaling it to the levels that you're speaking to that can actually feel quite daunting. And, sometimes that can shut us down. So, Claire, I'll turn this to you to start. What advice would you give to a school looking to move from just, maybe small AI pilots or experimentations here and there to actual full-scale campus-wide adoption and implementation?
Well, first, I would say be very kind to yourself and to your chatbot. We always say that Sadie is always trying her best. She never really gives a wrong answer. It's not just specifically what we're looking for. So one thing to keep in mind, someone gave me this perspective is, our chatbots, our admissions counselors, they might make a mistake, and as your leader, you would tell them and correct them. Do the same thing with these chatbots. Don't get frustrated and discouraged by it. Sometimes little mistakes happen, but let me tell you what, the data is always going to be the number one thing to help fill with these skeptics. We were just speaking about all the out of office time that we've been doing, and looking at our bot and the insights. we've had over 3,000 after hours conversations. And we would be missing those touch points with these students if we didn't have it. So being able to show those data points is going to be the biggest impact to grow and expand across campus.
Yeah, Carrie, I'll cue you back in now too. I'm kind of curious to hear you speak on this.
Yeah. Like I said before, it's not going anywhere. We need to embrace it. And so let's not be afraid of trying things and working through them. Yeah, I mean, we've saved so much time with hours as well. But also, I mean, not missing the student and their communication is very important. We had some faculty when we were explaining, some automation that we could do to help them with some administrative processes, which we've used this to streamline so many processes for admissions and enrollment. But they said, well, if we have AI, who needs us? And I said, oh my gosh, you guys can now go teach your classes. And not worry about, what we're doing on this side, because it's going to be automated for you. Your forms and your, checklists and things like that, which the checklists in this, unbelievable in those workflows. But yeah, you just, have to kind of keep building upon it and keep going.
Yep.
At our institution, actually, I think I skipped you, John.
No,
Sorry,
go for
John.
it, Luis.
I
Jump
was just
on
eager
in.
to jump in.
We're eager to hear what you have to say. Let's go.
So John will go after me. But yeah, so at our institution, we actually we have a committee, and this committee is comprised of many different folks from all across the institution, and also different levels, right? Because this is something I always tell my team is that I see things from a very different perspective than they do, right? So there are some things that I see they never will, but I also recognize the same is vice versa, right? They see things I never will because of just where we're at and how we work with students. So, I think that has a lot to do with how you go about learning this tool, and then also how it can be applicable. And some of the conversations that are currently stemming from that committee is trying to obtain enterprise level access, right? So instead of all these different departments starting to invest into these tools, it's like, how can we make that accessible for all? Which then leads to that next conversation, right? The training and the buy-in and those constant touch points. So, John.
Thank you, Luis. I think what I would like to kind of share is that you have to pick a starting point somewhere. I mean, it's like, Carrie was mentioning, AI is here. It's not going to go anywhere. And I think I shared a little bit of that aversion too before going to the Engage Summit this past summer. And we've already kind of called back to that. Anybody that's on the call, if you're considering a professional development opportunity this upcoming year, come to Charlotte and hear what they've got to share with you. It was a game changer for me. But the nugget that I left with is that AI is not coming to take your job. People that know how to use AI could come to take your job. So I would rather err on the side of knowing how to utilize AI effectively in my profession, so that when it comes to automating systems, when it comes to creating engagement, I'm aware of what those changes are. AI will be different now. I mean, by the time we finish this conversation, it will be different than what it was when Artis and JC were having their keynote earlier. It moves that quickly. But the fact is that you have to find a starting point and start somewhere and get the ball rolling.
Yeah. T. Turner in the chat room dropped some info from a story that is literally in the Washington Post today that says 80% of Americans generally are not using AI at work. So we're the 20% here. I guess now we know.
Yeah.
I guess so. And I mean, that's just why it's just blowing my mind. Thank you, T. Turner, for sharing that. All right. So at this point, I really hope that no one is still hesitant about using it, but let's just say they are, or someone's listening and they're like, I'm still trying to convince my boss. What is the easiest no-brainer AI initiative that anybody could start with today to make an immediate impact Luis, over to you.
I definitely think the co-pilots, primarily because you plug in the input and you can see the output before you do anything with it, right? Before you send that message off to a student, before you start creating campaigns. So it's letting you know, right, what it's discovered within your knowledge base, which is what it draws from. I just, that's really how I started training the team, right? Like Ted and I were up there in front of our crew and showing them, hey, let's ask it some questions. Let's ask it to draft this and do that. And just seeing how easy it was, I think was what really just kind of let them, we gave them permission to let their guard down. And I know that Ted's also thrown some things in the chat that, yeah, we tell them, hey, experiment with it. And as Ted said, yes, break it, like ask it questions, look for those gaps in the knowledge base. And the more that you use it, right, the better that the tool will be.
Yeah, I agree. The co-pilots are a really easy way to start. And I tell people all the time when they get access to the account, you can't break this. Just go play around, try to rewrite something. That's the easiest way to start. So I would agree with that. That's what I started playing around with, a few years ago. And it just, you sort of learn things from there. But I also use ChatGPT a good bit and built a custom GPT to help rewrite our website. But things like that where you can rewrite or help yourself get out of a writer's block or something like that is a really good way to start using it.
All right, let's talk ethics for a second. As you've all been scaling with AI, have you encountered any sort of equity concerns or ethical concerns within particularly the ways you're engaging students or using data or making decisions? And if you have, like how have you tackled them in real time? Luis, have you run into anything?
We haven't really, though I guess you could say that there are certain things that I watch for primarily from my personal use of AI and in particular generative AI. There are just some, I guess some biases that I've seen come through. So I think maybe in that particular respect, like as we've done our initial testing, I think that maybe we've just maybe a little more attuned to some of the possibilities that may arise, which has kind of led us to maybe populate our knowledge base a little differently than some other folks might have. Yeah.
Carrie, back to you.
I think we all need to consider how we're going to reevaluate students and employees in the future. Knowing that they are going to use it, we need to figure out different ways of evaluating their skill set. So I have encouraged my organization to think about that, and hopefully we will have a task force on that soon.
Yeah, we've not had any specific issues that I could cite as far as any kind of access or ethical issues or concerns. I do like the fact that the chat feature does allow for us to receive an alert if there is a user inside that's utilizing any kind of inappropriate language or using words that would maybe set off a series of events that would be unfortunate on a campus. We are very attuned to that, and we try to keep an eye on it as closely as we possibly can. And of course, in the process of trying to break it, people can kind of get carried away with themselves in there. So we try to take it all with a grain of salt. Sometimes they just use it as a sounding board to complain about their, least favorite teacher. But other than that, no specific ethical concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the main thing that we have is what John just kind of touched upon was, students, individuals reaching out in our chatbot and kind of inappropriate ways. And the moderation tools that Element was able to set in place immediately was so helpful. And they're able to even moderate what type of issue was sent, if it needs to be, some student who might need counseling, or if it's somebody just needing to be blocked or completely, it understands like the range of the moderation. So that was super helpful from Element.
Awesome. All right. as we are winding down, let's talk about lessons learned. You know, not everything works perfectly on the first try, especially how quickly this technological change is happening. You know, I would expect there's going to be some bugs along the way, right? So, have you had an AI initiative that didn't go as planned? And I think, you know, we've talked about failing fast already. Like the important thing is you've learned something from it and you do better the next time, right? So, so what happened and what did you learn, Carrie?
So, like I said, we're beta testing the AI phone assistant, and we have encountered a couple of things that it's not necessarily connected to our chat bot yet or doing that communication. But I will say that the team has jumped on it quickly. They know before we know sometimes that there's something going on with it, and so we're looking into that. So it doesn't always work perfectly, and you know, like I said about the data, our success team or retention team that we formed, they didn't have the best data set on the first couple of messages that they sent out, but they tried it anyway. And so, you know, you're going to encounter things like that, but keep going. A mistake is not enough to throw this all out the window.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think for us too, we made that same mistake where initially we tried to just populate every single web page. And you know, the way that the tool works is it goes out and it starts to explore. So the more there is to explore, the greater the possibility that it might become confused as it finds different topics that are interrelated. You know, as an example, some of the information that was in the tool when we started from the top down were like board of trustee meeting notes. So sure, there may have been a decision that's made about an admissions policy, but why don't we go to the source itself, right? And make sure that any question of that nature goes specifically to that very small, honed in information, instead of it trying to reach out into, you know, an infinite number of possibilities. So we've kind of started to do the exact opposite now, where we went in and started figuring out which pages we thought were most appropriate based on some of the questions that had already been there. And then now start to add as we see the gaps, and as we've incentivized other folks to utilize the tool, internal and external, right? We see even more gaps and slowly started to populate that way. So now it definitely produces much more honed in replies.
Yeah, same here. It was a good kind of reminder for us to start maybe looking at and examining pages within our network to make sure that it is reflecting correct information. The knowledge base is only going to report what we teach it. So sometimes web pages, as long as those web pages are still kept up to date and accurate, can produce a date that's already passed or a policy that's no longer in effect. We've got a fantastic web administrator who is always on the ball, that whenever we find these issues or changes that need to be made in a short period of time, she's able to go in and make those changes fairly quickly. The knowledge base reads those pages every single night. So whatever it went to bed with, it wakes up with that knowledge the next morning and can communicate with our users that way. So it was a good way to kind of start researching some of those pages, maybe moving some of those off the server, as well as updating, especially for search engine optimization as well.
Yes, we've encountered just a couple of issues with implementing our Sadie, pulling her out. Cody kind of realized that, you know, each student type might have a different answer from the chatbot for an apply message. So then implementing these student type teams underneath Sadie has been really influential on making sure the message goes to the right student at the right time. So we have different teams for each of our student types, which is our new first time, our grad student. We have an international, our international grad student, and our online. And this way, the messages always stay succinct to what that student needs. But that came out of identifying this gap that we needed to realize that these teams need to be implemented on the specific admissions web pages so that they know that they're getting the right support when needed. And yes, Cody's in the chat right now. She's in charge of our little assistants, keeping them working hard.
All right, panel. In one sentence or less, as we look ahead to the future of AI in higher ed, what is an AI development or trend that excites you the most? John?
The emergence of agentic AI and the fact that we could maybe charge these assistants to be able to do outreach for us in the future and help pull students across the finish line is very exciting.
Notice how he used some ands to make that one
Ands.
sentence a little bit
Sorry.
longer. I love it. No, John, I'm just picking on you. All right, Luis, what about you?
Yeah, I think for us, it's new hire training and onboarding, given that there is a private knowledge base.
Claire?
Okay, I want to steal Luis's. That one is actually, I could see that being so helpful with the onboarding. That's definitely one area that we need.
Stealing
Yeah,
and
I just
borrowing
learned
is totally
something.
fine.
I'm just really excited about how this can work for us too, as John said, in predicting what students are going to do before they do it and helping us with that before they start slipping.
Fantastic. Panel, thank you all so very much for lending your expertise and thoughts on this topic. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this one. Next up, we have Artist Kadu back to give us a quick hit 30-minute session on the 10 AI tools that you need this year. Like a trusted AI assistant, Artist has already done the research for you. So you've got a couple minutes to make your way over into the next session. Thank you again, panel. It's been an absolute pleasure. Folks, we'll see you in just a few minutes. Bye-bye.